When you listen to Nina Simone, you might think you're hearing jazz or soul or maybe the blues. But the truth is, it's so much more than that. Her unique sound, it wasn't really a choice between genres. It was the result of this incredible lifelong tension between the world she was promised and the one she ended up building for herself. So, let's get into it. And that really brings us to the central question, doesn't it? How on earth does a classical prodigy, someone whose whole life is pointed towards Carnegie Hall, become the high priestess of soul? Her journey from one to the other is just one of the most compelling stories in music, and it all starts with a dream being completely shattered. To really understand Nina Simone, you actually have to forget that name for a minute. We need to go back in time to a young girl from Tryon, North Carolina, whose name was Eunice Wayman. And let me tell you, Eunice Wayman's dream was huge, and it was incredibly specific. She had zero plans of being a jazz singer or a pop star. Her entire world, her whole focus, was on one single powerful goal: to become the first Black female concert pianist in America. We're talking about mastering European classical music, playing on the world's biggest stages. And she absolutely had the discipline to back up that dream. We're talking 6 hours, every single day. She was at the piano, practicing the works of composers like Bach. You know, Bach is this language of pure logic and perfect structure. That was the world she lived in. It's what shaped her hands and her mind from a very young age. But you can probably guess where this is going. That world she had so carefully, so meticulously built, it was about to come crashing down. A single event, a single rejection, was about to redirect not just her life, but the entire course of American music. This was supposed to be it. The next big step. The prestigious Curtis Institute of Music in Philadelphia. I mean, this was the gateway. This was where all those thousands of hours of practice were finally supposed to pay off and be recognized. And then she was denied. Just like that. For the rest of her life, Nina Simone was convinced that this rejection had nothing to do with her talent and everything to do with the color of her skin. In that one moment, the door to the classical world wasn't just closed, it was slammed shut in her face. This right here shows you just how profound and immediate that shift was. To make ends meet, Eunice Wayman had to take a job playing piano in a bar in Atlantic City. And to hide this job from her religious, classically minded mother, she invented a new name: Nina Simone. The dream of Eunice Wayman died, and the reality of Nina Simone was born out of necessity. But okay, this is where the story gets truly amazing. That friction, that tension between the classical pianist she was trained to be and the club singer she was forced to become, it didn't break her. It became the very source of her genius. It became her signature sound. And this is the key to understanding her music. She wasn't just blending genres. No, it was more active than that. She was conducting a musical dialogue. Sometimes it felt more like an argument, right there on the piano keys. Every single song was a conversation between the two worlds that were pulling her apart.
So how did she actually do it? Well, you can literally hear it if you listen closely. While her right hand and her voice are delivering all the raw emotion of soul and the blues, her left hand is often playing these incredibly complex Bach-like contrapuntal lines. It's like she's building a Baroque foundation underneath a pop song. She was treating these tunes with the structural seriousness of a classical fugue. It's just incredible.
Now, this deep musical tension, it became way more than just an artistic quirk. As the civil rights movement ignited across the country, Nina Simone discovered that her unique sound wasn't just music. It could be a powerful weapon. Think about it. That intense classical discipline gave her this almost scary level of technical control. She could build and release tension in a song and manipulate an audience's emotions with surgical precision. What she was doing was bringing the formal power and the sanctity of the concert hall right into the heart of the fight for freedom. And this quote just captures it perfectly. When she stood on stage, she wasn't just a singer. She was a sovereign. There was an undeniable authority to her, a command. When you were at a Nina Simone performance, you weren't just listening to some songs. You felt like you were in the presence of royalty. All of this power, this command, this fusion of worlds, it eventually earned her that iconic title. But calling her the High Priestess of Soul wasn't just some catchy nickname. It was a profound acknowledgement of what she had actually accomplished.
Yeah, that title was earned. It signified that she had taken the sacred discipline and the formal excellence of the classical world that had shut her out, and she bestowed it upon the world of soul, the music that became the soundtrack for a revolution. Which brings us to the central paradox of her entire life. It's honestly kind of heartbreaking. The tragedy is that Nina Simone reportedly never really got over that initial dream. She always mourned the classical pianist she was supposed to be. But then there's the triumph, and the triumph is what we're all left with. Because she was denied the one thing she wanted most, she was forced to create something the world had never heard before. A sound that was far more complex, more deeply human, and ultimately so much more enduring. So, what is the sound of a dream deferred? For Nina Simone, it wasn't silence. It was thunder. It was the sound of Bach-inflected blues. It was the sound of a classical fugue with soul. It was the sound of pure genius, forged in the fire of rejection.